How's it going, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. So today we're going to be discussing the M18 and kind of stuff behind it. I'm going to give you a few things in regard to the QLS system, the holster, the mechanism of the M18, and also the Air Force not willing to change from the Beretta M9 kind of mindset to the M18, which could have contributed to this incident that occurred. We're going to discuss that, along with a conspiracy, which I think is very interesting and potentially likely. So we're going to dive into a lot more details. Okay, so first off, disclaimer, I am a DoD employee, I'm an Air Force employee, but these are all my own opinions. We have yet to get official word what actually happened. So this is all allegation or potential circumstances around what's happening. Now, I'm kind of putting the pieces together, mainly because where this individual is working, I have worked there in the past. I understand the normal aspects. I carry the M18 every single day in my career. So I have some connection to the circumstance to give you an opinion, a personal opinion, on what occurred. First off, we're going to dive into holsters. Now, funny enough, I actually have a light bearing holster here for the M17 and the actual issued M18 holster here too. There's been some discussion about the issues of holsters, right? As in, hey, is the holster causing this? First off, let's get the QLS system out of the way, right? QLS system is exactly what just happened. When in mention, they said this member pulled the holster off of his side. Well, how do you do that? So Safariland makes QLS system. Now, I've had no issues with QLS system, and I do not personally think that the QLS system or the holster was really involved in this circumstance. But you can press these two little forks and you can separate the holster from the pistol. So allegedly the individual set it down on the table, still in the holster, right? It's just not on your side. And then that's when it uncommanded fired, right? That was the issue. So that's the QLS system. So from the rumors that I'm getting, he did not pull this weapon system out of the holster. That's where a lot of people are getting confused. That apparently, right now, did not happen. Now, the alleged situation, differently, is apparently SIG is kind of talking about to Safariland about the reason is light-bearing holsters are larger and they're causing more issues because it's so much like opened up down there. Is this likely? Yes, it is a bigger holster, I guess you could say, and more things can get trapped in here compared to the M18 or the non-light-bearing variety. But I don't think that that's the major issue of why things are occurring. It is still sealed up very tight, as you can see around the particular pistol. It's still difficult for things to get in there, along with this, right? So is there potential? Could it happen? Yes, they have talked about keys and pens getting inside and potentially causing issues. So I think it's just a ruse, my opinion. I think it's just kind of shifting not all the blame on the SIG right now, and they're trying to go, well, there's other people involved. Yes, I would say that's probably correct. Light-bearing holsters, non-light-bearing holsters, cool. I don't really see too big of an issues with the holster system itself, but that's just my opinion. This is the actual holster system that we use and employ in the Air Force, right? So it's non-light-bearing at this point in time. There are some out there, light-bearing holsters, of course, same holster, but different context. So we went over the QLS system, light-bearing holster. Now the mechanism of the M18. Sorry for the jets flying over. They're doing maneuvers. Actually, I want it really low. Might be able to hear it. But wait to it to go. Okay, but the mechanism of the M18. Right, the M18, going to give you a really short, quick understanding of it that, in my opinion, I'm not an engineer, me diagnosing this, going into it, figuring it out, all this stuff, you can make this pistol fire with the safety still on. The safety only stops trigger movement. By the way, this thing is safe and clear along with the other pistols around me. There's no ammunition literally within arm's reach whatsoever of me. So YouTube, don't freak out. We're discussing stuff. Now, the issue or the interesting part is you can make this weapon system fire on safe. The sear is all the way in the back here, right? You can take something and you can put it down. I'll actually put this inside, right? And you can listen to it fire. There, it just fired. That sear has to go down, and that's what you're literally doing, is the mechanism yourself, as you're pulling the trigger, By the way, that was on safe because it doesn't stop the mechanism sear inside. It stops the trigger, right? So the mechanism is still free to do whatever it wants. Now, all it needs to do is go down. The sear, when you pull the trigger, pushes that sear down so it can go forward. Not to bring in other manufacturers, but if we're going to discuss the Glock 19, why have we not had this with the Glock 19? It's because there is 2 motions that is required in the Glock 19. From my understanding, my messing around with it, the Glock 19, the sear actually, as you pull the trigger, you prepare and prep it going back, and then it goes down. So in one trigger movement, it goes back and down, which is extremely difficult to replicate if it's not being touched, right? 2 motions, back and down, is a lot more difficult than going just down, right? So in essence, when they had the drop issues, they were dropping it. That was one directional it could fire, in my opinion. That is what's occurring. So this is an easier mechanism, in my opinion, not an engineer, to have a fault or a failure in. It's not going down. Now, they could argue it slightly goes back, but if you look into a Glock and you kind of mess around with it, it goes back a lot and then it goes down. It's like this sweeping motion, right? So that's why the referencing is, why hasn't this happened to a Glock? And why is this happening to SIG? Layman's term, just me, I suspect that that's what it is, taking apart these weapon systems, seeing how the sear works and stuff like that. There's supposed to be a secondary catch, which there is on the sear. I'll maybe give some footage in that, but I don't know if that's specifically the issue, but having one directional movement of issues is easier to defeat than 2, and arguably 3 if necessary, if you could engineer it that way. All right, moving into one of the final things is the Air Force's stance from going from the M9 to the M18. Now, this is my opinion, might upset some folks, but we use the M9 for a long time. This is a double action pistol. If you're not familiar with it, it is safe and clear. There's nothing going on here. We're going to put it to fire right, of course, nothing in here. This is a double action pistol, so it takes 8 to 10 pounds to pull this trigger back, and it's going to pull the hammer back. And that is how we carried it in the holster, as in it needed 10 pounds. It was on fire, safety's on fire, but it would be in the holster. So as you draw, you would have to pull this back with a lot more force than a striker fire pistol. And of course, when it reciprocates, it goes to single action. That's after your first round. So you've already fired a round. Now you're into this very light, nice trigger pull that is easier to manipulate, right? That mindset, we did not change going to the M18. And my speculation for this is most of the upper DOD makes decisions on things that they've never tested, they've never held, they've never operationally used, right? So we carried fire in the holster, 1 in the chamber for the Beretta. Double action pistol, double action, single action. When we transitioned to the M18, they just copied and pasted the same thing. They said, well, what worked for the Beretta? Well, 1 in the chamber, on safe. Let's do it. That makes sense. But I don't think they realized is the mechanism is different. This is 8 to 10 pounds of trigger pull. This is now 4.5, 5, and it doesn't have some of those safety mechanisms. It's a lot easier to pull the trigger on this on a single action striker fire platform. And I thought, honestly, first getting issued these, they wanted us to carry in the fire position. And I was like, it's a striker fire pistol. Why are we carrying on fire, right? Again, argument could be done, well, Glock does it too. Glock has a safety mechanism inside that when left alone like this, the trigger can't be depressed. You have to, like, press on the safety. In essence, they move the safety on the Glock, like here's the safety in the trigger guard, to here. Right? But the wild thing is, it'd be like us getting a Glock, but you taped down this safety at all times. That's how you need to carry it. Right? If this safety wasn't there. That's what I suspect, or what I know, is that's the same thing as carrying this on fire. There's nothing, in essence, stopping it from having some kind of trigger pull or incident with this pistol, which is crazy. Is why don't we just carry it on safe? In my opinion, it's a new mechanism. There's no safeties in between. Why are we carrying that? Now, arguments, people say, well, we've been trained with a Beretta just to come out of the holster and fire without using the safety. Yes, the safety was a lot more difficult to actuate on the Beretta. It's a lot easier on this, right? As you pull out of the holster, you can just swipe this thing down. It's extremely easy to move. The issue was we didn't change our mindset from the M9 to the M18. Now, in the grand scheme of things, would have that mindset stopped this incident with the M18 from killing an airman? Maybe. But from what we have been hearing, again, it was in the holster and it got set down. Now, I am interested to see what comes out and what goes on about it. I would like to see, was the trigger slightly depressed and then it went off, right? And if it was slightly depressed, that means that safety would have completely saved the day or saved that incident. Again, it's a striker-fired pistol, not a double action. Now, the vest rumors, right? Why wasn't this individual wearing body armor? That's crazy, right? This person is instructed to wear body armor, and if he was struck in the chest, if he was wearing body armor, he would have been good to go. I think it's crazy that you're arming up a gun without armor. That's what people are saying. Now, to give you some insight, is this individual, speculating again, why do I know this? Is because I've worked in and around an environment like theirs and that exact same location. I was working in that area for almost a year. So I understand the daily routines of that. In that location where that individual was speculated to be working, or at least that's where they stated he was working, you're allowed to take off your body armor and set it down next to you because you're in a hardened structure. And there is no access for people outside to come inside unless you allow them through that door. So there's no physical threat of other pistols or weapon systems, people doing harm to you. So in the regulations, we're allowed to take off our body armor and sit down in an admin position because we know we're safe and secure. So that's why his armor was off, is what I'm speculating, because that's literally what a lot of folks do in regard to that. And when he took off the pistol, potentially, or allegedly, and set it down on the table, it went off, and that is why there was no armor to stop that. That is what is more than likely what occurred. Granted, we haven't got official word, but granted, I've worked in the same location as that. I understand the regulations behind it. I understand the concept of what he was doing and where he was. So I can kind of piece these together and share with you. Now, lastly, the conspiracy theory. A really interesting one. Again, this is why I don't do this on the main channel, just because I'm interested in just discussions and stuff like this. This is kind of off the cuff rambling, I guess you could say. But if I was placed in a circumstance like that, let's say this firearm discharged and harmed somebody, or you witnessed someone. What if you were sitting here and this incident occurred to the table next to you, and you just saw a coworker or something like that occur? Or, again, the rumors are going on, what if he took it off, set it down, and then it shot, unfortunately, a different member, or the member who passed away? If I was that member, and there's two people in this room, and his voice was just silenced, now it's all on me. And if that individual was educated enough, right, and maybe he was a gun guy, to know about the M18 and know the controversy behind it right now, right? If he was a gun guy following the FBI conclusion, that individual potentially, I'm not saying this is what happened, I'm just saying conspiracy theory, we all like this kind of stuff, right? Potentially, he could say, yep, that's what happened because the pistol went off in the holster. All of a sudden, it sparks a revolution in the internet realm of going, look, see, perfect data, and the whole internet and everybody starts jumping to conclusions because there's only one voice to be said in that room, and that individual is educated on knowing the controversy behind the 320 at this point in time, right? Granted, if I was a bad person and I wanted to cover up something and I had no guilt or anything like that, of sins or anything, then yes, I could potentially say, Yeah, that's what happened. So don't you see the FBI report? It went off in the holster. The same thing happened here to allow me free and clear to walk away. Not saying that's what happened. It's just an interesting conspiracy theory, right? If you know there's so much controversy behind this, you can push all that information to go, look what happened. Do we know that the member might be messing around with pistol? Have no idea. Was he? Was he not? We don't know. He probably could have done everything right for all we know. And it still potentially could have been Sig's fault. So, just an interesting conspiracy theory. I have no idea if it has validity, but imagine putting yourself in that situation. You're locked inside a room. There's only 2 people. This incident happens, and maybe you caused it, and you're going to lie about it, right? You have no morals whatsoever, and you're going to lie about it and say, look, there's already issues going wrong with the M18. Let's blame it on the M18, because then it gets off of me, and then we can blame it on a manufacturer issue. And now I don't go to prison. Pretty solid in some regard. So, again, I think I went over everything. QLS holster, the light-bearing holster, the mechanism, conspiracy theories, and the armor issue. So, if you guys like this kind of stuff, again, this is posted on the B channel. The A channel is going to be over there with way more subscribers and whatnot. It's just I wanted to get this information out, but I didn't feel it to be suitable on the main channel because it's like me rambling and just explaining things off my brain. I typically, I'm a little more tailored. But other than that, if you guys are in it this long, I really appreciate it. I guarantee this video will tank and it probably won't get any views whatsoever. But I just wanted to share my opinion. Again, this is my opinion. This is not official word whatsoever at the DoD. This is just me opinion of potentially putting those pieces together and going, I wonder all these things stacking upon each other if it creates tolerances, issues. No pun intended. So, other than that, like, subscribe, go check out the A channel, or subscribe to the B channel as well. We might do some more things over here that is interesting. Other than that, hope you all have a great day.